cryptocurrency Bitcoin has once again defied naysayers by spiking above $18,000 at one point today.
Bitcoin hits a new high.
We had this incredible run up in the fall going into the holidays, and then we've seen a pretty big pullback.
This is a 30% loss on the week and a 50% loss on the year.
Hi, are you considering investing money in Bitcoin? Or are you unsure about whether you should put any money in Bitcoin? Then you need to watch this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to measure and calculate the intrinsic value of a Bitcoin. And I'll also be sharing the 3 reasons why I'm not investing in Bitcoin. Hello and welcome to The Nimble Nomad. My name is Arjun and this is the channel where I talk about money and immigration related tips, tricks and hacks to survive and thrive in the UK. In this video, I'm going to be looking at the intrinsic value of a Bitcoin and sharing the reasons why I'm not investing in a Bitcoin. Now, before I get into the main content of this video, if you are interested in investing money in stocks or generally in investing, why not consider opening a Trading 212 account through the referral link in the description section below. If you do open one through that link, you could get up to £100 of a free share. And full disclosure, I get a share as well. This really helps out the channel, and just so you know, this video is not sponsored by Trading 212. Now with that done, let's get into the main content of this video.
Bitcoin reminds me of Oscar Wilde's definition of fox hunting, the pursuit of the uneatable by the unspeakable.
You know, I agree. I would short it if there was an easy way to do it.
Now, I have a fundamental theory that I do not invest in anything that I don't understand, and I decided to make a video series or a 2-part video series on Bitcoin. So in this video, I'm actually going to be going in through the more specific detail on how do you actually calculate the intrinsic or fair value of a Bitcoin and why I'm not investing in Bitcoin. Now, everything that I say in this video is my own personal opinion and what I'm doing with my own money, and I'm only sharing this with my community because I think that people who watch videos on my channel could certainly benefit with my rationale as to why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay, what is the intrinsic value of a Bitcoin? Now, this is a massively debated and very hot topic at the moment, and if you break down the intrinsic value of any asset class or anything that is of value, it ultimately comes down to 2 basic factors. So factor number 1 is scarcity and factor number 2 is utility. Now, I'll go into each one of these in a bit more, but basically scarcity is the fact that you can't actually produce more of that one thing that you're looking at as an asset or of a thing of value. And the second thing is utility. You can actually use that asset or means of value to exchange and procure other things. So the first thing in relation to Bitcoin, which is scarcity, is so Bitcoin was created by an individual or a group which is called Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody actually knows who this person or this group actually is, but when they created Bitcoin, they did so with the intention that there could only ever be 21 million Bitcoins ever. Now, obviously, if something is limited, then it is by nature scarce. But I decided to dig a little bit more deeper with Bitcoin as to why 21 million was the number that Satoshi came up with. Now, the rationale based on my own research that I was able to come up with was that Satoshi, when they created Bitcoin, wanted 1/1000th of a Bitcoin, which is also known as a Satoshi, to be equal and pegged to a fiat currency such as a euro. So he wanted 0.001 of a Bitcoin to be equal to 1 euro. Now he has explained the rationale as to why only 21 million were created, but he's never actually shown the calculation or provided the full details of that. As a result of that, there's been fairly significant number of back calculations that have been performed, and I'll add a link of one of those mathematical calculations in the description below in case you are interested. But the fundamental underpinning factor that I have uncovered based on my research is that Satoshi did so create 21 million as an arbitrary educated guess. There was no real, reason or clear mathematical rationale for the reason why it was done so. Now, the second aspect of Bitcoin and assessing and evaluating the intrinsic value of Bitcoin is the utilitarian factor of it. Now, in order to assess the utility of Bitcoin, I think there are four things that you can look at. And the four things are, the fact number one is that it is decentralized, which means that not one person has complete access and authority over Bitcoin as an asset. So it's not owned or managed by any individual, and they do not have full control of that asset. The second side of it is the fact that it is easily divisible. So Bitcoin actually can be divided into subparts, and it can be used to procure things like a donut to a house to a mansion even. So it is divisible. And then the third aspect is that ultimately the code under which underpins Bitcoin as a digital currency is open source. So you could, in theory, look at this and scrutinize this. So this is the utilitarian factors that you could consider for Bitcoin. Now, when I wrap all of these factors up, if in totality, despite these actually being explained the way I have based on my research, you don't actually have a actual intrinsic mathematical value associated with Bitcoin. You can't actually say it has a certain weight and it costs per gram or per Bitcoin X amount based on the effort that is required. The most natural way that I can understand, and the way it's correlated from an intrinsic value, is the amount of electricity that it takes to generate a particular Bitcoin. Now, there are many theories and mathematical models associated with this, but I'm going to scrutinize this a bit more in the next part of the video, which is the 3 reasons as to why I do not think Bitcoin is a good investment. Now, keep in mind again that this is my own opinion and what I'm doing with my money. So I just want to share that with everybody here. So the 3 reasons why I don't particularly think that Bitcoin is a good investment are basically, the first one is the intrinsic value and the value creation of Bitcoin. The second one is the usability of Bitcoin. And then the third one is the regulatory side of Bitcoin. So from a value creation perspective, Bitcoin does not actually create any value. So if I use the money that I have and I procured or purchased a stock, it would be a portion or a part of a business which would have free cash flow. And if it was a dividend paying business, then I would earn a dividend from that, owning that stock. Not only that, if the value of that business and revenue increased, then there was a tangible way to assess that the stock price itself would rise over a period of time. The second thing is, if you look at a rental property as well, if I bought a rental property, it would generate rental income as well for me. Now with Bitcoin, actually, if I buy Bitcoin, I'm not actually getting any immediate returns from it. The only way that I can get returns from Bitcoin is if the per unit value of Bitcoin appreciates in the on the exchange and in the market. Then my value of my or return on my investment goes up.
Bitcoin and ICOs, I agree completely. It's one of the crazier speculative things where it's not as a an asset class. You're not producing anything. And so you shouldn't expect it to go up. It's kind of a pure greater fool theory type investment.
The second side to it is the intrinsic value of it. Now, a lot of people and Bitcoin purists would often associate or equate Bitcoin to an asset class which is very similar to gold. And this is because, like Bitcoin, where there are only 21 million Bitcoins ever produced, gold is a limited resource which needs to be mined and identified and dug out of the ground. Now, when you watch some of the experts on Bitcoin on television, they'll often shout out six-figure digits like this.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a six-figure headline.
The end game on Bitcoin is that it will hit $300,000 to $400,000.
Now, there is a lot of argument in the market and with some of these experts on how Bitcoin is paired or very similar to gold because it's rare and a scarce commodity. But to me, there are two wild assumptions here. So assumption number one is that the value of gold will completely be replaced by Bitcoin. And the second assumption is that the world authoritative governments and establishments such as banks will let Bitcoin run its own course and achieve that full valuation. The assumption is that, you know, these guys will not come up with their own version of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. And it is happening. These guys are coming up with their own. So in my opinion, that intrinsic value in itself is not really a tangible consideration. Now, people say that Bitcoin is much more usable and easier to use means of currency and exchange than typical fiat currencies like the dollar, the yen, or the pound. However, when you look at why people purchase Bitcoins, right? They do so as an investment class. So the reason why most people talk about Bitcoin as an investment is not to actually use it as a means of currency or exchange. They're doing it so that they buy it and they hold it. Now, this is very similar to what I was saying earlier as Bitcoin being compared to gold. And gold is often cannot be used. You can't actually go to a store and shave some of the gold off and actually use it to buy a donut or a coffee. People say that Bitcoin is different because Bitcoin can be split into, you know, satoshis, which is 1/1000th of a Bitcoin, and that can then be used to purchase different things. But in theory, if something is scarce, rare, and you know that it is a needed, demanded value asset, why would you ever use it as a means of currency? Why would I give it away today for $1,000 when I know that in 50 or 500 years it's going to be worth billions or millions of dollars? Okay, finally, this is the final nail in the coffin for me on Bitcoin. So if you actually did some research on Bitcoin on UK financial regulator's website, then you would find that Bitcoin is actually specifically called out as not a currency. It is actually defined as a token of exchange, and it specifically says that these are not regulated and they do not have any of the protections that other investments such as equity or investments in gold through exchanges would have with any financial institution in the UK. Now, if let's say with Bitcoin, Coinbase, which is the largest and most secure known exchange that is available, goes bankrupt or has a problem for whatever reason, right? In theory, what you would have is if you had any value of investments through them, you would be protected for up to $85,000 or 85,000 pounds if it was any other financial institute. But with Bitcoin, because it's not a regulated asset or asset class, if this happened with Coinbase, you would completely lose that money. And the regulator actually explicitly calls this out on their website. You need to be prepared to lose all your money with it. For me, my risk tolerance and my investment strategy, this does not actually fit in that model. And therefore, I'm not actually comfortable with investing in Bitcoin. So as I said in the beginning, this is a personal opinion and, you know, this is my view and my strategy on investing. I do not think that Bitcoin is a safe investment and therefore I'm not investing in it. You are obviously entitled to make your own decision. I'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on whether you think Bitcoin is a safe or a good investment in the comment section below. If you do like this video and if it did help you out, please smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll keep coming back with great videos. Don't forget, you have access to the referral link, which gives you access to a free share of £100 if you register through that link. As always, I'll get back to you with great videos. Thanks very much. Goodbye.